Welcome to the channel of NZ Justice 111. This is episode 13 in the series, The Names of Who Corrupt New Zealand and What They Don't Want You to Know. Without further delay, here we go. Here's the fraudulent amount Christopher Lynch and Senior Sergeant were claiming against Lisa's Trust in the High Court. We have already covered the $20,000 in the last video, now we will cover the $30,144. If you have watched episode 4 in the series, you would have known this money was borrowed off the bank by Senior Sergeant to, amongst other things, redecorate his home for sale. In the High Court though, Christopher Lynch and Senior Sergeant claimed Lisa's Trust had loaned this money off Senior Sergeant but never repaid it back. So let's see what Judge John Presley said about this $30,144 in his judgment. He rounds it off to $30,000. Certainly the $30,000 loan found its way into Lisa's trust bank account. This channel now shows you this judge, as you saw in the last episode, again being caught out recording false information in his judgment. Had John Presley bothered to check bank statements, in other words evidence which this judge obviously does not care for, he would have discovered that Senior Sergeant had not only used the $30,000 to redecorate his home for sale, he also used this money to pay his mortgage payments for his own property, which had nothing to do with Lisa's Trust. As proof of this, here is a screenshot of two of Senior Sergeant's bank statements. The top statement belongs to his BNZ03 account, which had the $30,144 attached to it. The bottom statement belongs to his O2 account, where the BNZ was drawing his mortgage payments from. You can clearly see on the 1st of March and again on the 15th of March, Senior Sergeant using IB, Internet Banking, transferring money from his O3 account to his O2 account, where his mortgage payments were coming out of. If you have watched episode 3 and 4, you would know how Senior Sergeant had cunningly convinced Lisa to allow his personal accounts to be linked to her trust's internet banking facility, with Senior Sergeant also persuading Lisa to give him the access number and password to her trust's online banking so he could access his accounts. During the trial though, Senior Sergeant claimed to Judge Presley that he did not have internet banking and that Lisa had persuaded him to allow his accounts to be linked to her trust's online banking facility, only for Lisa to spend money out of his accounts without his knowledge. The Bank of New Zealand, via its Complaints Resolution Executive, Leanne Trevathan, also jumped on the bandwagon to support Senior Sergeant by giving evidence on oath during the trial that Senior Sergeant did not have internet banking. Judge Presley, without looking at simplistic evidence, in other words bank statements, to see what Lisa had allegedly spent Senior Sergeant's money on, recorded the following in his judgment. Transactions from Senior Sergeant's loan account, in other words his O3 account, were made by Lisa pursuant to the internet banking access she had. Wouldn't we all love a partner like Lisa that sneaks into our accounts and pays our mortgage for us? This channel also confirms there is a large amount of interest charged on Senior Sergeant's O3 account, which, as said earlier, had the $30,144 attached to it. This interest was charged on, but not limited to, the money Senior Sergeant had borrowed off the bank to redecorate his home for sale, and the money he used to cover his mortgage payments. Just for a laugh, let's revisit what Judge Presley, who appears to believe evidence is a joke, recorded in his judgment to do with the $30,144, which said earlier he rounds off to $30,000. Certainly the $30,000 loan found its way into Lisa's trust bank account. This channel does not wish to appear to be disrespectful, but it has to be said. What an idiot. Now we turn to the two last amounts Senior Sergeant and Christopher Lynch were claiming as loans that had been given to Lisa's Trust by Senior Sergeant but had never been repaid back. If you have watched the series, especially episode 5, you would already know these claims Senior Sergeant and Lynch were making was blatant fraud. So let's see how Judge Presley handled this trial from the first day it began. This judge was shown on the first day of the trial a letter from the Bank of New Zealand that Lisa had obtained that same day. This letter proved 4 of Lisa's trust bank accounts were not available online, hence bank statements for those accounts could not be obtained online. This letter proved BNZ lawyers 3 weeks before the trial began had lied to Judge Katz about online access to Lisa's trust bank statements. These lies are fully covered in episode 11. And did Judge Presley care about perjury being committed by BNZ lawyers? No, he did not. And did Judge Presley care that Lisa and Rose had been unlawfully obstructed via perjury from obtaining vital evidence, the trust bank statements, so they could be used as the main evidence to support their defence against Senior Sergeant and Lynch's fraudulent claims against Lisa's trust? Judge Presley never stopped the trial. That should give you the answer as to whether or not this judge was concerned about the unlawful obstruction of evidence by Bank of New Zealand and its lawyers. As a result of the I couldn't care less attitude taken by Judge Presley, Senior Sergeant was given the green light to commit as much perjury as he could possibly fit into the trial to do with, but certainly not limited to, what financially happened between himself and Lisa during their relationship. If NZ Justice 111 were to show you in this video all the perjury, deceit and deception Senior Sergeant packed into this trial, this video would be around 2 hours long. However, this channel will give you a perfect example of what Senior Sergeant claimed to Judge Presley while he was in the witness box giving evidence on oath. I was contributing my income into our relationship. She wasn't paying in anything financially. Oh, what lies, as absolutely confirmed by episode 5 in this series. And how does this channel know what Senior Sergeant claimed to Judge Presley? Because NZ Justice 111 holds a full copy of a transcript, or notes of evidence if you want to get legal, that recorded every single word a witness said while giving evidence on oath during the trial. Suffice to say, Senior Sergeant convinced Judge Presley that he had been the financial victim of his and Lisa's relationship, with Senior Sergeant pleading with this judge to order Lisa's trust to repay his loans so he could simply get on with his life. Despite Lisa and Rose's attempts to convince Judge Presley that Senior Sergeant was lying, and despite Senior Sergeant not producing any evidence during the trial to support his financial claims against Lisa and her trust, Judge Presley recorded the following in his judgment. To suggest that Senior Sergeant was being deceitful or was deliberately feathering his nest at the expense of Lisa and the trust is an untenable proposition, and I reject it. Maybe this judge should watch the series, especially episode 5. Unlike Judge Presley, NZ Justice 111 is in the business of relying on unequivocal proof. And speaking of proof, let's see what else Judge Presley got so wrong, shall we? In episode 2 of the series, this channel exposed to you that Lisa, in 2004, was accused behind her back by her former barrister Warren Simpson of being in possession of Senior Sergeant's original copy of a prenup entered into by Lisa and Senior Sergeant in 2002. This channel also showed you in episode 2 and others that followed how Senior Sergeant and good old dishonest barristers Christopher Lynch and Warren Simpson made sure Lisa and Rose never found out about what Lisa had been accused of. In the trial though, Senior Sergeant claimed on oath that he had told Lisa in 2004 about what barrister Warren Simpson had accused her of, to the point the couple even argued about the matter. Relying only on Senior Sergeant's word, Judge Presley recorded the following in his judgment. Senior Sergeant in evidence said he did discuss this matter with Lisa, and I believe him. Judge Presley's belief is wrong again. If only this judge thought evidence was important, such as the document Senior Sergeant filed in the court just 10 days before the trial began, this being his statement of defence where he admits to not telling Lisa that she had been accused of being in possession of his original copy of the COA. This is short for Contracting Out Agreement, which is another name for a prenup. Lisa also told Judge Presley during the trial that Senior Sergeant, against the terms of their prenup, had made a property relationship claim against her trust's assets by claiming they were relationship assets, with Senior Sergeant even going so far as to ask the family court to give him a share of the equity held in Lisa's trust. And what did Judge Presley record in his judgment about Lisa's concerns as to what Senior Sergeant had claimed in the family court against her trust? This concern of Lisa's is irrelevant. No such claim has been made by Senior Sergeant. False, yet again. If only this judge knew what evidence was. Let's show him, shall we? Here is a screenshot of the front page of Senior Sergeant's 10th of September 2009 affidavit, which he filed into the family court. And here is a screenshot of the relevant page within that affidavit, clearly confirming that Senior Sergeant had indeed made a claim against Lisa's trust assets by calling them relationship assets, with Senior Sergeant also asking the family court to award him a share of the equity in Lisa's trust. So much for no such claim has been made by Senior Sergeant. As NZ Justice 111 shows you more and more false information recorded in Judge Priestley's judgment, let's all remind ourselves that this man's incompetence and his I couldn't care less about evidence attitude fully aided Senior Sergeant and Christopher Lynch to commit heinous financial fraud against Lisa and Rose and Lisa's family trust, which not only destroyed Lisa's and Rose's life, but also the lives of close family members. This channel is mindful not to make our videos too long. Therefore, this now ends episode 13. Look out for episode 14, when this channel will continue exposing the shocking miscarriage of justice done against Lisa and Rose by Judge John Priestley. Episode 14 will also be exposing to you the lies and deception used in the High Court trial by corrupt barrister Christopher Lynch, his just as corrupt law firm partner Greg Stringer, and last but by no means least, good old corrupt barrister Peter Wright, who gives a new meaning to the word dishonesty. Until next time, keep safe.